Hi, everybody, and welcome to Attendance Bias. I am your host, Brian Weinstein. My guest on today's mini episode of Attendance Bias is JoeJo Casone of East Hampton, Long Island. You may not recognize JoeJo's name off the top of your head, but you've certainly heard of him, or at least heard about him. Remember during the April 3rd, 1998 show of the Island Tour, when someone jumped on stage during Loving Cup before getting chased off by Pete Carini, and then the band teased Carini for the following Antelope, and then the rest of the tour? That's someone who Carini chased off stage. That was JoeJo. For today's episode, JoeJo chose to tell us about Loving Cup from November 13th, 1997 at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas. Moreover, JoeJo is very gracious, and he was very happy to talk about his unplanned stage appearance at the Nassau Coliseum in 1998 as well. I originally thought that the Loving Cup from the Island Tour would be the focus of the episode, but as JoeJo and I spoke, it became clear that the Nassau version and the version from Vegas 5 months earlier were inextricably tied together. Even more than that, JoeJo is eager to talk about his love of Phish, his connection to Tigger, and how he escaped not only Carini, but the Nassau Coliseum security. So let's join JoeJo Casone to hear about Loving Cup from both the Island Tour and November 13th, 1997 at the Thomas and Mack.
Let's meet today's guest.
JoeJo, welcome to Attendance Bias. Thanks for being here.
It's good to be here, Brian.
Great. So you are here today to talk about Loving Cup from November 13th, 1997 at the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas. But of course, I think myself and a lot of people listening to the show definitely want to hear about your appearance during the Island Tour. But after we've talked a little bit back and forth, it turns out that those two things are linked, right, by the song Loving Cup.
That's true.
So I'm really excited to dig into one and then the other. But before we get into the big picture, let's do a quick lightning round just so all of our listeners can get to know your Phish profile and who you are as a fan.
Attendance Bias Lightning Round.
So when was your first Phish show?
That would be New Year's Eve, 1996, Boston.
That was with the balloon drop, right?
The balloon drop, all red balloons.
What was your most recent Phish show, your last one?
Last one was New Year's Eve, 2020.
And your favorite song?
I'd love to say Divided Sky because it always has been, but somehow I think Squirm and Coil is going to take it because I don't get it much, and I just absolutely love when at the end when Paige just really rips it up on the piano there. It just puts me in a trance and takes me to another place.
What's your favorite venue overall?
I have yet to go to the Mothership, but I would have to say Madison Square Garden because Chris Kuroda, I believe he has the keys to that place. Does the Knicks games, the Ranger games, and not only do you have your regular stage lights that will follow everywhere else that they play, but he's got the house lights, and I don't know if it's like that in other places, but it really is an intense light show.
If you had to pick one, overall, summer tour, fall tour, or New Year's run?
New Year's run.
Indoor Phish or outdoor Phish?
They're both great. I'm going to go with indoor. I'm going to go with indoor Phish.
I tend to like indoor Phish too.
Yeah, there's something about it, I love being out and I love nature and I love seeing the stars and everything. I feel like for me, the Grateful Dead was more of an outdoor thing. Phish just feels better to me inside. It just, I don't know. I feel like we're all just trapped together and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, we're all in it together, right?
That's right.
Song you're chasing?
Song I'm chasing. I don't think I'm chasing one anymore. I was chasing lizards for about 24 years. And I got that New Year's Eve 2018, was it?
Yeah, it was 2018. Yep.
Now I guess I'm chasing a game henge like everyone else.
We'll be chasing for a while. Got to keep up on leg day. Make sure that we're ready to chase. What's your favorite year of Phish overall, if you had to pick one?
Let's go with 2017 because of the Baker's Dozen run.
I have a feeling a lot of New York area people would echo that sentiment as well.
It was a great run.
And your favorite post-show snack?
Favorite post-show snack? is that's a great question, Brian. Great question. Because if it's an outdoor show, it's gonna be a grilled cheese in the parking lot, hands down.
Classic, yeah, classic.
You know, but if it's inside the city or the garden or something, I'll probably hit probably a pretzel, a hot pretzel or something.
And finally, what is the weirdest thing you've ever seen at a Phish show?
It was a Halloween. I think it was Halloween, Vegas. The girl in front of me, like 2 rows down, was pretty much naked, wearing fishnet stockings. And I didn't think I'd ever see something like that at a show.
They say it's a dry heat, so.
Well said.
All right, so let's get into the island tour, where I think you probably got on the radar of a lot of fans. I remember when I was in the when I was first getting into the band, the Farmer's Almanac. Do you remember that book?
Hey, hang on a second.
You got yours?
Well, I got both. I got 2.
Oh, those are the 2 that I had.
This is the 2.
Same exact ones. They both fell apart. Their bindings completely fell out just from how often I would open them. I think it's the one. I think it's volume 5. Yes, that one.
Volume 6.
6. Okay, where there is a short write-up about you or by you. Is that right?
That's my story. I wrote it.
I'm flashing back big time right now.
That's great that you remember that.
Oh, big time. I even remember some of the quotes from it. The book is long gone. It's like since disintegrated into dust. But I used to memorize those things. And I could picture, even though you just had it on screen, I could picture your photograph on it. Like it's burned into my brain. And for people who don't know or who never owned a copy of the Farmer's Almanac, there is about a 3/4 of a page article about JoJo's appearance during the island tour when he jumped up on the stage during Loving Cup on April 3rd, dressed in the head-to-toe Tigger outfit. You wrote about Tigger in that. Like that was kind of the context or the pretext of it, that your jump on the stage was bonded with your kind of identity, either as Tigger or with Tigger of Winnie the Pooh. So before we get into the appearance and your memory of it, can we just hear about what your connection is to that character?
Yeah, definitely, Brian. Wow, what a memory you have. Only let me just quickly correct you, because people always get confused. It wasn't a full Tigger costume. It was just the Tigger backpack.
Okay. Maybe it's the picture I'm thinking of.
The picture is the full costume.
That's it.
From the lemon wheel that was taken.
Got it.
So what Tigger means to me, is that where we were at?
Yeah. We'd love to hear about it.
I was probably like 17, 18 when I read the Tao of Pooh. And I really connected with all the characters. But Tigger really meant something to me. I related to him. And I was working in the mall, Smith Haven Mall, and I passed by the Disney store, and they had a Tigger doll that was like 10 inches. The thing was so cool, so I bought it. And next thing you know, friends started buying me all sorts of little Tigger things and stuff. It just started to grow. But this Tigger doll was absolutely fabulous. It was like because I created it was like a puppet or a Muppet, and the way I would control it with my hands, it would make people laugh. So me and my friends would go out to shows, festivals, things like that. And it would crack people up, and he'd just be hanging out. And then I left home and I went to Arizona. I just left home and started traveling the road, living in the forest, things like that. And one night I was completely lost, and I was in Flagstaff, Arizona on Route 66. I was in a bar, and I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I was probably 21 years old. And I realized that Tigger wasn't with me, and I had a backpack, and he used to hang out in my backpack. So I realized he wasn't there. He jumped out. So I started to backtrack my steps. I crossed Route 66 and I went over by the train tracks, and there he was just sitting there. And he was in the stand-up position. How was he in the stand-up position?
Waiting for you.
I'm telling you. So I sat down next to him and said, "What are you doing, buddy?" Next thing you know, the Santa Fe train comes by. And I'm like, "Oh, waiting for the train? All right, let's do it." So I pick him up and we start running after the train. I figure I'm going to jump on it. heard about stuff like that. I'm like, let me jump the car.
It's like a scene right out of the Great Depression, you know, like it's like your hobos running along and trying to throw their trundle in before they jump in, right? You're like in a Charlie Chaplin movie.
That's exactly what I felt like that whole run being out there on the road. And I couldn't catch it. I missed it. I couldn't get on. That was, let's go now to the Great Went. So we go to the Great Went, and once again, I got Tigger on my backpack, and I lost him. He must have jumped out again. I'm looking around for him and stuff. I'm like a head full of acid that whole weekend, you know, and I'm looking for him. And then somebody tells me, "Oh, I saw him. He was in the bubble bath." Remember that plywood bubble bath? Did you go to that show?
I was not at the Great Went. I was my first festival wasn't until it.
Gotcha. So they had a bubble bath made out of like 2x4s and plywood and whatnot. And someone said they saw him in there. So I like literally visualized him like laying down in the mud, and somebody picked him up and was like, "Ooh, let's get him clean." And they put him in there. Well, I couldn't find him. And they had this whole big art thing that they did that a lot of people remember. And so I went and
burned
wrote
at the end of the festival, right? You're talking about the art installation? Yeah.
Exactly. And we're all in this together, you know, like everything got burned together. It was brilliant. So I took orange and black paint and I wrote up a whole sign, "Lost Tigger," and I was looking for him. And I don't know if I leaned on the sign or if I literally painted black and orange stripes on my arm. I don't remember. All I know is the end of the night, everything burned. So I walked back to the campsite, which we used to call the 100-acre woods, and whenever we went camping, and all my peeps were there, and they looked at me and they're like, "What happened?" And I looked down at my arms and I saw the stripes, and I said, "I turned into Tigger." And I had no idea how profound that like moment was, that one little saying. And to this day, I don't know if that 10-inch Tigger, you know, burned in that fire with everything else and went down. I don't know if it's in the time capsule or the Millennium, or if it's in Santa Fe. I'm not exactly sure where it is, nor does it matter. But comes that September, a friend buys me the Tigger backpack and says, "Now you won't lose him."
Right,
So
he has nowhere to go because he is who you are. He's literally attached to you now when you wear him.
No doubt.
That's fabulous. Do you think that it's something about the character itself of Tigger, like his kind of happy-go-lucky persona that resonates with you, or is it just something totally random? Was it because you were 17, it just the orange and black? Is there anything deeper to it, or it's your favorite character?
That's interesting. That's a deep vulnerable question.
Well, I'm curious because when I remember reading, I'm going to keep referencing that article that's in the Farmer's Almanac, and it really tickled me because I imagine I'm a couple years younger than you. And the way you wrote it, I'm an English teacher, by the way, by trade. So I noticed things like this. The way you wrote it, you were speaking about Tigger as almost as in a Calvin and Hobbes type perspective, that he is a living entity and that you were kind of interacting with him. And so I'm wondering if that's sort of part of your personality is reflected in the character of Tigger, or if I'm just way off.
No, you are right. Now, when I went on a little bit of a deeper study with him, you find out that Tiggers are somewhat unreliable, and you don't want to admit that you're unreliable. It's like, what does that mean? You know, I think I'm very reliable, but I do have that constantly bouncing around, thinking I can do more than I possibly can. You know, is it possible I'll take a little Rue and jump clear out of the book and put Rue in danger? Yeah, it's a possibility I might do that.
So let's fast forward to the island tour. So now it's the spring of 1998. Phish announced just these 4 shows while they're in the midst of recording the story of the ghost. And the second night of the run, but the 3rd of April is, I think, widely seen as the best of the 4 shows with that legendary Roses Are Free. But during the end of Loving Cup, this is right as they get to the coda when they go back to What a Beautiful Buzz. You can hear it on the recording. There's this gigantic cheer, this incredible cheer. It's overwhelming on record. and you showed up on the stage and you were chased off by Pete Carini, which then led to the antelope jokes. Carini's going to get you, that words that now live in immortality in the Phish world. Can we hear it from your perspective? Because anyone could hear it from mine.
Yeah, Brian, definitely. Thanks for letting me tell it. That was an epic show, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I hit that stage, that epic roar, I mean, it just exploded that place. I was section 114. So it would be opposite stage, parallel to like the opposite goalie. And I'm up there with a bunch of friends. And every time I heard Loving Cup, it would get to that point of, oh, what a beautiful buzz. And I always wanted to feel this freedom of that, because it was a beautiful buzz. So I would go someplace. I try and get to the highest point I can, or on the edge of the balcony or something. And I would raise my arms up high and just kind of just be alone in that moment and just feel that beautiful buzz around me. So what happened was I was dating this girl, Tara. And we went to a lot of shows together in winter of 97. And next thing you know, a few days before this, she breaks up with me. And we had tickets for all the shows of the island tours. So we decided that I'll take the Long Island shows and she'll take the Providence shows. We also talked about going to a show sober together because we've never been to a show sober. I was like, we should try it. Well, that night, and Love and Cup was kind of our song, which I usually don't tell people, but now it's out there. It was our song. So there we are. I'm there at the show with my friends. Song comes on. I'm sober. I have no idea what to do. Things just felt, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't get to a high point,
Yeah.
So I did the first, oh, what a beautiful buzz. I grabbed Tigger. I turned to the guys and said, I'll be right back. Wasn't sure where I was going. I just grabbed him, put him on my back, walked down about 20 feet, and decided to jump over the wall. So now I'm on the floor of the Coliseum, and I'm fishing my way through the maze, getting up to the front row. Something you definitely can't do today.
No,
they block
certainly
you big
not.
time.
So you find yourself on the floor. What happens next?
So I'm on the floor. I fish my way up to the front. And my head's down pretty much the whole time, enjoying it during the whole jam part. And then I find myself in the second row. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I'm here. Now what? I wasn't thinking about jumping on stage. I was just wanting to get to the front row. It was either that or in the back, way up high. So the two people in front of me, I said, listen, when Trey starts singing, move out of the way, please. I'm going up. So that's what happened. Next thing you know, you hear, you can feel it. You can feel that, it's getting ready to get right to that point. So right before it gets to, oh, I'm like, all right, it's at that point. So I put my hand on the guy on the left of me, put my left hand on his shoulder, put my foot up on like the 4-foot balcony, and I just catapulted up as high as I could and just leaped over. It was probably a 5-foot, between the barricade and the stage was like 6 feet. So it was like 5 and like another 2 up. And I just hit that stage. And I'm telling you, when I hit that stage, I was like, okay, now what? I got what's going on? So I turn and I start doing this hoppy, weird dance. Now, this is great, Brian, because the video is out there. All right. So you can see the video. Part of me wishes the video wasn't there because I remember that moment as if I stood still and I raised my arms up perfectly still, like a Winnie the Pooh, just standing there, not a Tigger, for like 20 seconds. But that's not what happened at all when you watch the video. It was a hopping across. Carini came, I saw him, and I just dove right back into the crowd. Now, I was, like I said, no drugs, no alcohol, and I was higher than I've ever been in my life. That little 15 minutes of fame at that moment, lasts a lifetime in the Phish community. And I just, it was great because that could have went many different ways. Like when I was standing there then, I was like fourth or fifth row back now, hanging out with some people I didn't know. They were all like, oh my goodness, that was amazing. And then they start joking into Carini's going to get you. And they're like, yo, this is for you, you know? And it actually looked like, I looked to the left and right, and I could actually see yellow shirts almost coming in as if security was going to get me. And then when they started doing all that improv, they just kind of backed off, you know? And one of my favorite parts, Brian, I was when, right before they really kick in the antelope, it's great because you got to listen to, it's like a very quiet, you got to hear the very silent of when Fishman goes, here comes Carini.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to run up on the stage, just don't let Carini get you. As long as you stay there on the drum set. Yeah, and don't attack the drummer.
He's coming to get you.
It's right at the beginning, right?
What's that?
It's right at the beginning, right?
Well, no. Yeah, right. Well, yeah, they have the whole thing going into the beginning of Antelope, but then right before, right in the beginning before Antelope kicks into the ba ba ba,
yeah,
you know, you hear, here comes Carini, very thing. He's coming to get you. And when you hear the ba ba ba, in my head, when I listen to it, I hear, so you better run like an antelope. You know, it just kicks it in so wonderful. And what an antelope.
Oh my God. It's 15 minutes long. It's even, you know, when they get to the very end, and I'm going to butcher this, but it's like that very end when they get to the really high pitch, they go on for another like 25 or 30 seconds. Just when you think it's going to fall into that reggae section, it keeps going. And even the reggae section backs off to like not even half speed, but even slower than that. They really milk it. And there's so much soul in it.
Amazing.
So what did your friends say when you got back to the seats?
They couldn't believe. I mean, I stayed down there then for the rest of the encore, everything, and then I worked my way back up and saw everyone. And we went back to someone's summer house, and we just had a party, and they bought me an ice cream cake saying Carini's going to get you. And it was all, they were blown away. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't. My one buddy, you know, he was tripping hard, and you know, he saw me right next to him, and the next thing you know, he turns around and sees me on stage. He's like, wait, how did that happen? You know, there's like 4 minutes between, you know, he's like, wait, how did that happen? You know, it's funny to go back to the song that I was chasing for so many years. And I never said this, but I really, really believed when you listen to that whole show, 4-3-98, that they were going to come out and encore. We don't know anything, but I believe they were coming out and encoring with Lizards. That's what I honestly believe. But because I jumped on stage, they changed it, and they ended up doing, you know, Carini's Got a Lumpy Head. And next thing you know, the X ends up in Providence getting the Lizards, and I'm chasing it for 23 years.
Worth it. You won. You got the better end of this. You got the better end of the deal. With your big moment coming during Loving Cup, let's go back to the show in November 13th, 1997, which is inherently connected to your moment on stage during Loving Cup. What is it about this performance of Loving Cup that is so special to you?
Now I'd have to go back and say it was probably the drugs.
End episode. Way to go.
We went from the sober show to how I originally got there. Somebody gave me some pure MDMA, and if anyone's ever taken that, you know, it's just, everything just feels alive. But I heard Loving Cup a few times, but at this show, I really, really heard it. You know, when that came on, it just, I was there. And like I said, I was standing on that edge, holding my arms up. I felt like I was floating. There was no one else around but me. But at the same time, we were all in sync together. You know, it was just the most beautiful buzz. Like it was just one love during that time. I just love the way that performance goes. Trey's using the whammy bar or the whammy pedal. You know, you hear it more in there than you would, I think, in the 98 show. Just a real special jam.
Yeah, in the very beginning, it's a bit slower than the usual tempo, I think, this performance is. And that's not a criticism. I think it serves the song, actually.
Won't you come on up? I'm the plowman in the valley with a face full of mud. Yes, I am stumbling, and I know my car won't start. Yes, I am fumbling, and I know I play a bad guitar.
No, I agree.
They have great vocal harmonies. Fishman is as steady as ever. And I've never been to the Thomas and Mack Center, but I looked up the capacity and it's 14,729. You want to talk about a good arena rock song? It really serves the enormity of this song, of what it can sound like.
The Thomas and Mack is very much like Nassau Coliseum.
Yeah, well, Nassau's about the same capacity, I think.
Yep.
And then the beginning of the guitar solo, the jam, Trey is pretty patient during a part that he usually pushes. Like normally he's an arena rock god during this song, like Jimmy Page or, you know, like in this case, like Keith Richards, but he's a little bit more patient than usual, which I think was a precursor to the rest of the Fall 97 tour when all four band members would be very patient, slow, and they would, you know, play more funk than like guitar attack rock.
I agree. Definitely. I completely. I also love how Page, you know, he's like hammering on those keys, kind of opposite of what Trey's doing. And I don't know, like you said, it was just straight up Rolling Stones rock and roll. You know?
And the best part of it is that it's an encore, right? So it's like you always want to walk out happy. You know, the band always wants to leave you with something big, whether, even though the song hadn't been written at the time, whether it's First Tube or Good Times, Bad Times, which is a pretty common encore around this time. They always want to leave you smiling and energized, wanting more, right? We've been coming back for however many decades now. And this is no different. The end of this one just fucking kills.
I couldn't have said it better myself. You hit it right on the nut there, Brian.
So is there anything about Loving Cup that like meant anything special to you? Was it your song with your girl? Is that why? Or is it just like, it's just the song overall that you love?
The greatest thing is that now has left,
Yeah.
It's no longer about the girl, it was at that moment. But when I first really fell in love with it on the Thomas and Mack show in 97, that was me falling in love with it on my own. When I got back from that road trip, that's when her and I started going to a lot of shows together on the East End here, on the East Coast. We did a lot of shows together, and I brought in how much I love this song. So that's when it became somewhat our song, but not when I first found it.
Right. You had it first. It was yours, and it's still there with you.
And it's still there with me. And it's like every single time that song comes on, that first note, as soon as you hear that first note, something inside me just, it just smiles and just awakens. It's just a beautiful feeling, beautiful buzz. Always will be.
JoeJo Casone, thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, hearing your story. For anyone out there who's ever said the words, Carini's going to get you, we actually got JoeJo to be on Attendance Bias. So JoeJo, thanks again for telling your story, for bringing this version of Loving Cup to our attention. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and what a pleasure it is to meet you.
Brian, it was a pleasure to meet you and an honor to be here. You have a great show, and I thank you so much.
And that's it for today's episode of Attendance Bias. I'd like to thank JoeJo Casone for joining me today, Phish.net for providing all of our information, and Phish.in, Fishin', for a phenomenal sounding recording of both shows today. If you enjoy Attendance Bias, please show support by leaving a rating and a review of the show on your favorite podcast app. And just tell one person about the podcast this week. Call them, text them, however you want to spread the word. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next week on Attendance Bias.